The Midnight Gospel is a 2020 Netflix original series created by comedian Duncan Trussell and Adventure Time creator Pendleton Ward. The show is a deeply philosophical, dystopian animated series with dark undertones that deals with interesting and sometimes controversial philosophies and perspectives. It is elaborately delivered through a conversational interaction between our main character, Clancy, and the various special pseudo-famous guests brought onto the show.
Nobody comes up to you, okay? There's never been a request for a picture. You are you're snap finger famous. That's the guy, what's the guy?
Netflix's description of the series states, traversing trippy worlds inside his universe simulator, a spacecaster explores existential questions about life, death, and everything in between. Today, we're going to review The Midnight Gospel, according to the following: design, dialogue, visuals, and popularity and appeal. Design. Each episode is standalone, and typically starts with a short, inconsequential interaction between Clancy and his illegal universe simulating computer. Next thing we know, we're ejected directly onto an Earth in an alternate universe where strange shit always goes down. In one episode, you might visit a planet infested with zombies. The next, a planet full of baby clowns, deer dogs, and giant flies. I know, random as f***. But that's where I think the show seems to really shine, in its somewhat paradoxical nature. A dark-toned, brightly designed dystopian spacecast that deals with genuinely debatable topics, such as the use of drugs, the concepts of death, forgiveness, and resurrection. The design of each episode is deliberate, in the regards that the dialogue and message of each episode has no relation to the actual context of its visuals. Dialogue. As I said, the show tackles a number of topics, like death, forgiveness, resurrection, religion, and the likes. The terminology used is not only bizarre, but often foreign. The dialogue and content is very sophisticated, and often catches you off guard. Considering that the character and set design is so crude and simplistic, you might actually be shocked if you pay more attention to the message of the show. 1 second, Clancy is having a very serious discussion on the perceptions of life and death. Then the next second, he's attempting to defecate while being impaled by a dog deer's antler. I know, more random shit. However, these short, illogical, insignificant periods of jargon are deliberately injected into the dialogue, almost as a way to provide the viewers a time to rest from the complexity of the conversations between Clancy and his various pseudo-famous interviewees. Something unique that I noticed early on is the use of filler language. Usually in voice-over cartoon or animated shows, mistakes in dialogue are kept to a minimum. As you can see, whenever a person speaks off the top of their head, such as during a podcast or an interview, they tend to use filler language, or filled pauses, such as ah, or This is to signal to others a pause to think, without giving the impression of having finished speaking. This provides a realistic feeling to the conversation between our characters.
I do fumfer a lot. Fumfer is kind of like that.
It just shows you that, life can to understand and learn from. I'm appreciative of all of them.
What would you add to that? But then I spent some time with it, and
I've also noticed that they have a lot of crosstalk, which is when two people are talking over one another on a single dialogue. This is to make the conversation between characters feel more natural, giving off an impromptu vibe with a touch of realism.
I follow you also. I follow you on Instagram as well, and you posted this was very.
Ukraine, or now their heavy-handed approach.
You both
their heavy-handed approach.
You both have said Vladimir Putin is a
Gentlemen,
better
we're going to
leader
get to
than
Russia in just a moment.
And paid a few taxes and lost $1 billion a year. You are Donald Trump's apprentice.
Visuals. Vibrantly designed backdrops. The landscape itself is active, dynamic, and chaotic. While the animations are crude and simplistic, at its core, the show is not reliant on its design, or even its characters. Since every episode is a standalone, we don't need to interact with the characters to build any relationship to them. In this way, characters do not need to be likable, relatable, or even engaging. To be honest, you could even close your eyes while listening to Clancy's Spacecast, as the animations are entirely inconsequential. They play no part in progressing the dialogue or the narrative, as the characters themselves do not actively interact with their environment. And in a way, you almost feel left out by not understanding the entirety of the episode. But my advice to you, don't even try to understand what is happening. just listen attentively. If you focus on what's happening on the screen, you'll miss the point. If you can somehow ignore the visuals and useless antics of the characters, you will often be surprised by how insightful the underlying message of each episode is. Popularity. The Midnight Gospel follows suit of other trending adult animated TV shows such as Bob Burgers, BoJack Horseman, and the cult king Rick and Morty. The show itself is somewhat irritating. The humor is nothing to write home about. But The Midnight Gospel is not a comedic experience. It's an existential exploration into societal concepts and the human condition. Through the podcast-like interaction between our characters, we are given answers to questions we didn't really even care enough to ask, but at the same time, we wouldn't mind hearing out the answers. And personally, after finishing the relatively short series, I did feel somewhat enlightened, and at the very least, I received unique perspectives on some rather important questions about life. Final thoughts. The Midnight Gospel is fascinatingly strange, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some may find the crude animations unappealing, the humor to be somewhat irritating, and the random circumstances of each episode to be quite bothersome. But nevertheless, if you listen to what is actually being discussed amidst the chaotic mayhem of the show, you may come away with some invaluable insight. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Please share this video with anyone you think might enjoy it. I appreciate all feedback, so if you have any comments or suggestions, just hit me up in the comment section below and I'll be sure to reply. Again, this was Tyler the Director. See you all next week, and that's a wrap!